Today, we're here to announce federal criminal charges against Eugene Henley Jr., a career criminal known as Big U, who used his contacts and leadership role in the Crips criminal street gang, the entertainment industry, and a youth charity to further his own criminal enterprise.
For years, people whispered that something wasn't right behind the scenes between Nipsey Hussle and Big U, but nobody expected federal prosecutors to step in. Now, in a shocking twist, court documents claim investigators intercepted a phone call where Big U allegedly said 3 chilling words about Nipsey: "I'm going to kill him, period." Those words are now part of a federal RICO case, and when Blacc Sam finally responded online, it didn't feel random. It felt like years of silence cracking under pressure. Was this just street talk taken out of context, or is there a deeper story the public never saw? Today we break down what the wiretaps reveal and why this case could change how Nipsey's legacy is remembered forever. But to understand the weight of Blacc Sam's reaction, we have to look at the history between these two men and what may have been building behind the scenes for more than a decade. This isn't simply a disagreement between two individuals from the same neighborhood. It reflects a deeper conflict involving loyalty, power, and personal history. Big U wasn't just another older member of the Rollin' 60s. He played a major role in Nipsey's early life. Their relationship was once described as extremely close, almost like family. That background is what makes the current situation so complicated. To see how things reached this point, it's important to understand who Big U was in Los Angeles street culture. Eugene Big U Henley was known as someone with authority and influence. The Rollin' 60s neighborhood Crips have long been one of the most recognized sets in LA, and Big U held a respected position within that structure. At the same time, Big U was focused on expanding into legitimate business. He viewed hip-hop as a pathway to move beyond street activity and build something legal. That's where Nipsey Hussle entered the picture. In the early 2000s, Nipsey was a young artist trying to establish himself. Big U reportedly saw potential in him and offered guidance. This went beyond casual mentorship. Nipsey spent significant time at Big U's home, sometimes even living there. Big U set up a studio space where Nipsey could record freely. He provided support, resources, and access that helped build the foundation of Nipsey's career. Big U also used his industry connections to secure studio opportunities through Suge Knight. At that time, Suge still carried influence in hip-hop circles despite the controversies surrounding Death Row Records. Being connected to him meant credibility and access.
Additionally, Big U signed Nipsey to his label, Unique Music, for production and co-management alongside Steve Lobel, a known industry executive who had worked with established artists. This wasn't an informal agreement. It reflected an attempt to create a structured and legitimate music business partnership. Big U had significant standing in the streets. He had served time and built his reputation over years. When someone with that background supports you, it carries expectations. Loyalty and respect are central values in that environment. Any public sign of disrespect is often viewed as serious. As Nipsey's success grew, tensions reportedly developed over business matters. Specific details remain unclear, but there was said to be a disagreement involving equipment at Big U's shop. On the surface, that may seem minor. However, in street culture, perceived disrespect can escalate quickly. Big U had provided housing, resources, connections, and mentorship. In response, Nipsey released a diss track that many interpreted as targeting Big U. That shifted the issue from business to personal. The diss placed Big U in a difficult position within the Rollin' 60s structure. If he ignored it, some could interpret that as weakness. In that culture, appearing weak can invite challenges. On the other hand, responding aggressively meant potentially harming someone he had once treated like family. In a documentary series, Big U stated that he attempted to have Nipsey disciplined over the song. Within gang terminology, discipline can involve physical punishment. The fact that this was even considered shows how seriously he viewed the situation. It also highlights how street culture often treats violence as a response to perceived disrespect. The situation did not escalate at that moment because Nipsey's brother intervened. However, that did not remove the tension, it simply paused it. From that point forward, it's likely that Blacc Sam understood the potential dangers surrounding his brother. Fast forward to March 18, 2011. That date marked a direct confrontation between the two. The meeting took place near the alley behind a Shell gas station at Crenshaw and Slauson in Hyde Park, an area closely associated with Nipsey. For Big U to approach him there signaled how serious the dispute had become. In street dynamics, entering someone's territory for a confrontation carries meaning. It suggests the matter has moved beyond discussion. The physical contrast between them was significant. Nipsey was about 25 years old and weighed roughly 125 pounds. Big U stood around 6'5" and reportedly had martial arts training. It was not an even matchup. Witness accounts describe the encounter as one-sided. Big U physically overpowered Nipsey during the altercation. The size and strength difference was obvious, and the situation quickly turned into a dominant display rather than a balanced fight. Observers characterized the scene as intense and forceful.
Big U wasn't simply trying to win a fight. He was attempting to embarrass Nip and send a clear message about what happens when someone crosses him. This was about power and authority, not just resolving a disagreement. This is where Blacc Sam becomes central to the story. According to eyewitnesses, Samuel Ashgadum, known as Blacc Sam, saw his younger brother being overwhelmed and stepped in. He pulled out a firearm and discharged rounds into the air to stop the altercation. He wasn't aiming at anyone. These were warning shots intended to break up the fight and prevent serious injury to his brother. But when gunshots ring out in a neighborhood, the situation shifts immediately. Blacc Sam's choice to fire warning shots may have been what saved Nip's life that day. Big U appeared to have control of the fight, and there's no way to know how far it could have gone without intervention. However, firing those shots placed Blacc Sam in significant legal jeopardy. In California, discharging a firearm in public is a serious offense, regardless of intent. Blacc Sam likely understood he risked arrest, yet he acted to defend his brother. Then the situation escalated further. An LAPD officer returned fire at Blacc Sam but missed. Police claimed he pointed the weapon at them, while witnesses maintained he was firing upward to stop the fight between Nip and Big U. The scene became chaotic. Warning shots, officers firing back, and bystanders trying to understand what was happening. That day, LAPD detained 5 individuals, but only Blacc Sam was charged, facing assault with a deadly weapon. Notably, Big U faced no charges, despite being identified as the aggressor who came into Nip's neighborhood and initiated the conflict. He left without legal consequences. Meanwhile, Blacc Sam, who intervened to protect his brother, was arrested and charged with a felony. From that point on, tensions between Big U and Nip deepened in ways that are only now becoming clearer. A new federal indictment suggests that Big U had been targeting Nip for years, and the evidence outlined is substantial. According to prosecutors, this fixation led to years of intimidation, threats, and alleged plotting, contributing to a hostile environment surrounding Nip. Even if Big U did not personally carry out the murder, authorities argued that prolonged hostility and threats helped normalize violence against Nip. Federal prosecutors issued a superseding indictment, portraying Big U as a violent figure who maintained influence through fear. One of the most striking elements involves recorded phone conversations about Nip. The government reportedly spent years building its case using surveillance and wiretaps. These recordings present a man deeply focused on control and reputation. In one section of the indictment, Big U allegedly discussed disciplining a fellow Rollin 60s member identified as OG Cuz. He claimed the man was beaten for disrespect and suggested he could have escalated the situation further. He then referenced a dispute involving Nip and others from the neighborhood. Prosecutors cite a specific statement in which Big U allegedly said that if circumstances had been different, either he or the other person would not be here.
Authorities interpret this as linking his authority to life or death outcomes. They argue this language reflects someone speaking casually about lethal consequences. It was not described as an emotional outburst, but as a measured conversation about power and consequences. Further wiretap evidence shows that on December 31, 2022, more than 3 years after Nip's death, Big U was still speaking about him. During that call, he reportedly stated he was bigger than Nip, claimed he had disciplined him, and asserted superiority over other Rollin 60s members. Nip had been gone for over 3 years, yet these statements were still being made. Prosecutors suggest this reflects an ongoing fixation rather than a closed chapter. Instead of focusing solely on legitimate ventures, recordings suggest he remained concerned with status and dominance over Nip's legacy. On January 1, 2023, another intercepted call captured additional statements. According to the indictment, Big U said he was not in conflict with Nip because, in his words, if anyone had a problem with him, he would kill them. Prosecutors highlight this as language that portrays aggression rather than defense. They argue it reflects a mindset centered on control through fear. Additional recordings allegedly show Big U threatening a South Los Angeles business after being denied a discount. In other calls, he reportedly discussed spending time in rival Grape Street territory while making violent remarks. Authorities say these statements indicate that threats were not limited to disputes involving Nip. Instead, they describe a broader pattern of intimidation toward employees, rivals, and others. Prosecutors also claim he boasted about always carrying firearms and having the ability to pay others to carry out assaults. This, they argue, demonstrates an organized structure built around violence and enforcement. The allegation that he paid others to commit assaults is significant because it suggests access to resources and personnel capable of carrying out violent acts without his direct involvement. Federal authorities argue that threats against Nip were part of a larger system of intimidation. The superseding indictment outlines how direct violence was combined with outsourced enforcement. He allegedly maintained individuals willing to act on his behalf. Prosecutors contend this demonstrates both motive and capability. In cases involving organized crime, direct participation is not always required to establish responsibility. Under federal RICO statutes, individuals who operate criminal enterprises can be held accountable for crimes committed within that structure, even if they did not personally execute every act. If prosecutors prove that Big U led such an enterprise, he could be liable for violence carried out under that umbrella. When Blacc Sam later responded online to news of the federal charges, his reaction was not simply about a legal update. He had lived for years with awareness of what prosecutors now describe in detail: the alleged threats, the hostility, and the long-standing conflict. What we're witnessing isn't just a conflict between two individuals from the same neighborhood. It reflects how toxic masculinity and street politics can damage families and entire communities. Big U brought Nip close, treated him like family, and supported his rise. But when Nippy began asserting independence, that support reportedly shifted into opposition. That's not guidance, that suggests control. The fact that Big U was still discussing Nippy on recorded wiretapped calls years after his passing indicates the issue went far beyond business. This situation appears deeply personal. This case also shows a larger issue: how street culture can interfere with legitimate business partnerships. Big U and Nippy had the opportunity to build something meaningful together. If disagreements had been handled through communication instead of intimidation, the outcome could have been very different. It's important to clarify that federal authorities are not charging Big U directly with Nippy's murder. That case was handled in state court, where Eric Ronald Holder Jr. was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 60 years to life in prison. What federal prosecutors are pursuing is a broader pattern involving racketeering, intimidation, and threats, including alleged threats against Nippy's life. Their case argues that Big U was leading a criminal enterprise and that those threats were part of that operation.
The updated indictment introduces additional overt acts, portraying Big U as someone who allegedly used fear to maintain influence in Los Angeles and over affluent clients. The allegations extend beyond the threats against Nippy. Federal RICO investigations are highly complex and often take years to develop. The decision to include alleged threats against Nippy suggests prosecutors believe they have substantial supporting evidence. According to court transcripts reviewed by YouTuber Abdulaziz, Big U's alleged extortion operation was highly profitable during its peak. He reportedly collected significant money from individuals who feared potential violence or consequences. The alleged targets may have included successful entertainment figures with street ties who were attempting to transition into legitimate careers. Such individuals would be vulnerable because going to law enforcement could expose their own past involvement.
However, what stands out is how openly Big U allegedly spoke during recorded calls. He reportedly discussed Nipsey, other Rollin' 60s members, and even associates in aggressive terms. He was allegedly labeling people informants, boasting about being a hunter, and making violent threats. For someone accused of leading a structured criminal organization, speaking so freely on monitored lines appears careless. Most individuals involved in illegal activity avoid discussing such matters over the phone, yet these recordings suggest otherwise. This lack of caution may have contributed to federal authorities building a strong case. If communication had been more guarded, the investigation may have faced greater challenges. There is also indication that Big U's alleged drug activities created complications for Nipsey even before their conflict intensified. According to analysis by Al Prophet, Big U allegedly used a travel agency as a front to move drugs through tour buses. This may explain why Nipsey's tour bus was repeatedly stopped by law enforcement. Authorities were reportedly searching for narcotics linked to Big U's operation, drawing Nipsey into investigations despite no evidence he was directly involved. For someone focused on establishing a legitimate music career, repeated police stops created negative publicity and legal risks. Reports even suggested that cartel members may have targeted Nipsey at a Chicago concert, possibly in an attempt to reach Big U or send a message. If accurate, this would demonstrate how criminal activity can endanger uninvolved individuals. Nipsey appeared to be distancing himself from street involvement, yet circumstances tied to Big U allegedly kept placing him in difficult and dangerous situations. Overall, this situation illustrates how one individual's criminal conduct can affect entire communities. Even if Big U did not directly order Nippy's murder, years of alleged threats may have contributed to an environment where violence against him became normalized. Repeated public hostility can influence outcomes over time. The tragedy is that both individuals had the ability to positively impact their community. Nippy was already investing in development projects and economic opportunities in South Los Angeles. Big U had influence and connections that could have supported those efforts rather than conflicted with them. Currently, Big U faces serious federal RICO charges that carry the possibility of life imprisonment. Prosecutors describe extensive wiretap evidence and a consistent pattern of intimidation. There are reports that Big U may consider representing himself in court, a risky decision given the complexity of federal RICO litigation. Considering his past recorded statements, further missteps would not be surprising. The trial is expected in the coming months and could reveal additional details about the alleged enterprise. It may also answer long-standing questions within the hip-hop community. Ultimately, this story extends beyond Big U and Nippy. It highlights how street influence can damage close relationships and how the desire for control can undo meaningful progress. Big U once had the chance to be remembered as someone who helped elevate Nipsey Hussle. Instead, he may be remembered for alleged threats and for contributing to an atmosphere that preceded his death. Blacc Sam's reaction to these charges reflects the emotional weight carried by Nippy's family. For years, they have lived with the knowledge that there were individuals who may have posed harm. Now, federal authorities are formally addressing the alleged enterprise.
RICO charges against Mr. Henley and his associates reflect a pattern of crimes that runs the gambit from extortion to robbery to murder to tax fraud and to human trafficking, all under the umbrella of a well-organized criminal organization led by Mr. Henry.
This action will not bring Nipsey back, but it may offer some measure of accountability for a life lost too soon. The marathon continues, yet those accused of trying to obstruct it are now facing legal consequences. That provides some level of closure for Blacc Sam and supporters who have long sought justice. Rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle, and continued prayers for Blacc Sam and the entire family as they pursue answers. The legal process is unfolding, and Big U's alleged era of intimidation may be nearing its end.